Hi, this is an explanation for week 8. This week you'll be looking at the topic of civics, which is chapter 11 in our textbook, in the social studies classroom. You're going to create a democratic classroom, you're going to investigate character education, and you're going to study the importance of national identity in the classroom. So I'm going to start with the group work this week, and I'm going to click on that item. This week, as a group, each member of the group will select one of the following items below, and you're going to research a resource that best represents that item. You're going to post your link to your resource. It may be an image too, in a creative document in this Dropbox. Be sure to explain why the resource was selected and how it relates to the importance of national identity. So you have several things you're going to do. You're going to pick one of these items here that are listed below. You're going to then look for a resource, and in some cases you might have to look for an image, and you're going to put that into one document for your whole group that pretty much relates all of these items to the importance of national identity, and you're going to share out a little bit about how that does. So one person will look for a lesson plan instructing the national symbols. You do not need to create the lesson plan. You just need to locate one that instructs the national symbols. Another person will find an image and a resource of the flag of the United States, the seal of the United States, the national bird, and the national flower. The third person in the group will also look for an image and a resource of national mottos, the Liberty Bell, the Statue of Liberty, and the national anthem. The fourth person is going to look for a resource to support the national holidays. It could also be an image as well as a link or resource. And the last person in the group will also look for a resource that promotes values and principles of American democracy. So the group will then need to select how best to post the identified resources, and in some cases images, into one document that's not only visually appealing but also very informative. And each member of the group should then post the same document to receive credit for this group work. This is something a little new that I haven't asked for you to do before, but each member will also need to post the total group work, the document. It's the exact same document for each person, but I want each person in the group who has worked on this in the group this week to post that document. And that's the group work. I'm going to take you back. Once you've settled that and have that underway and you know what you're working on for that, you can start working on your independent activities. This week you'll start off with a social emotional learning activity. You're going to take a look at the social emotional cultural anchor competencies resource slides. Those are the same slides that we used in class before, but this time you're going to actually click on the guide. I think I have the guide now, the link to the guide, workable for you to take a look at the guide. I think you'll find a lot of interesting information and interesting resources using the anchor competencies. So once you have perused all of the 7 anchor competencies and you're familiar with the resource guide, select one anchor competency, look for 2 resources from the guide. You will then post the links to the resources from the guide on the Google slide for that anchor competency. So when you see the slides, you're going to say, oh, those are the ones we used in class. But each of you individually will post 2 resources, 2 links to the resources from the guide on the slide of the competency you selected. And then you're going to share the information of the resources you selected and how you would use the resources with students in your classroom. So not only do you need to link the 2 resources, but you also then need to share how you would use those resources when working with your students in the social emotional learning curriculum. You will read chapter 11 this week. Read the first half of this chapter. That's pages 338 to 355. You'll read the remainder of the chapter in week 9. So even though it is a 2-week learning module in regards to the chapter, you are going to complete the work this week and next week you will have some additional work for the second part of the chapter. So we're going to focus on civics education. You're going to respond to the following questions and post your work in this Dropbox. You are to add comments, ideas, thoughts, and affirmations to 2 of your colleagues' postings. These are the questions that you need to respond to. What encompasses the study of civics in elementary school social studies? Why is civics important for this age group, which is the elementary middle school? How does civics education fit into the social studies curriculum? And do your encounters with civic education that you may have observed in school settings or in your own experience or in your own education support this emphasis? Respond to those questions. Post those in this Dropbox. Then you're going to take a look at character education on page 349, and you're going to select one of the following to be completed. So you're either going to locate children's literature online of a notable character who displays outstanding positive traits such as honesty, leadership, compassion, and post the image of the book, a brief synopsis of the story, and how you determined this character was courageous or had outstanding positive traits. You can either complete that item or this item. You're going to locate an idea, a lesson sketch of teaching a civic decision-making skill to discuss a contentious issue in a safe classroom environment free from judgment and criticism, and to effectively use the skill from the lesson in real-life civic situations. So you won't actually be creating a lesson plan. You can look for a lesson plan, a lesson idea, an activity that teaches a civic decision-making skill to discuss a contentious issue in a safe classroom environment, free from judgment and criticism. Post one of those responses. If you do both, I will give you extra credit. But you don't have to do both. You just the requirement is one of those items. And the last activity this week, you're going to be reading and referring to the textbook pages 342 to 348. And any of the resources below or your research, you're going to create a virtual classroom or a classroom diagram or any other visual and label your work to incorporate the following. You need to write about a description of your democratic classroom, how you will involve your students in the creation of the classroom rules, several classroom procedures, and share how you will introduce those procedures to your students, and your use of classroom meetings. That information is all in the textbook, and maybe you already have experienced how classrooms experience rules, or how you have to work on classroom procedures the first 6 weeks of school so kids understand your expectations of what they are required to do and how they are required to do certain things in procedures and routines in your classroom. And then to discuss how you might use classroom meetings. Make sure all of your ideas represent those of a democratic teacher who is an authoritative facilitator versus an authoritarian. That's on page 343. You will then post your visual in this Dropbox and comment on 2 of your colleagues' postings. You are to return to your work at the end of the week, read your colleagues' comments, and write a response to their comments. So this week, you not only have group work, you also have your individual work in which you're going to be commenting on some of your colleagues' responses, and then you are to return to look one more time this week before the week closes out, and read your colleagues' comments and write a response to their comments. If you don't have any responses or any colleagues who've responded to you, then you don't have to worry about a comment. If you want to add a further comment about something that you really thought was good about your ideas or about your classroom, you're more than welcome to share that. And that is the work for this week. As always, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. Otherwise, I will see you online this week. Have a great week.